Okay, so this is the day 3 on this painting, and what I'm hoping to do today is to improve the cherries. As I said yesterday, the cherries are starting to decay a little bit. This is beginning to wrinkle, the skin is, but while I've got them in front of me, I want to try and establish the colour accuracy. And then once I've done that and I know what I've got to mix, I can then refer to the photograph. I always find it's much better to work directly from life. As I said previously, photographs can tend to either over or underexpose different parts of the image. So I've mixed up what I think is the local colour of one of the cherries, and basically the colours I've got ivory black, cobalt, I've got violet on there, I've got transparent oxide red, I've got crimson alizarin, I've got a permanent magenta, quinacridone red, cadmium red and white. I've put the cadmium red on there, just I might need it, I might not, it's probably a bit too high in chroma, but it's there just in case. I've mixed up this local colour using some crimson alizarin and some transparent oxide red, just to change the temperature of the colour a little bit. And I'm now going to mix a darker version of this by adding a touch of black and some of the permanent magenta, just to create a slightly darker variant of that. Okay, so I want to just raise the value. What I did mix into this was I did mix some white in just to raise the value of it slightly. I'll do the same with this. As you can see, when you mix the white in, it goes really bright pink. Might need a bit more of that. So transparent oxide red, we'll take it more towards an orangey red. Just let me get a bit more. This is the problem with trying where possible to minimise the amount of time I've spent sort of looking for paint and things like that. If I'm recording in real time, then it is something I have to do. Okay, so you can see that's a really high chroma compared to this. And I want to take it more towards orange, so I'm going to put the transparent oxide red in. I need a tiny bit of white just to raise the value fractionally. What I'm mixing here, I'm trying to get the same local colour. Now once I've got the local colour, I can then adjust it down or up according to what I need. And what I mean by local colour is the actual colour of the cherry without the effects of shadow or light on it. It's not far off now. Still it needs a little tiny bit more of that. So now I need to darken this. I need a tiny touch of black. Might be too much. That is too much. Yeah, that's too much. as I've said previously, I spent an awful long time mixing colours. Just the nature of this. Still think it needs to maybe be a little bit darker. Yeah, the values difference isn't a huge amount there. Kind of going backwards and forwards between dark and light. That's better. Okay, that's better. I don't know if the camera's picking the subtleties of the colour up here. It's quite a dark purpley red that I've got here. Okay, right, so I'm going to start with a local colour, painting that in first. I'm going to use quite a small brush, so let me get this out of the way. There. Find a brush that'll do the job, that one. I know which cherry I'm going to start with. So I'm looking at the contrasts. I want to maintain those if I can. This cherry sits on top of another one, and it's really dark at the back of that. Quite a bit of I'm getting quite a bit of reflection, glare. It's almost black underneath. Again, I'm merging these just to get the subtle variations. Okay, now the cherry that sits in front is much brighter. And that actually, a touch of violet in it at the front. Start to think about edges a little bit now as well. So I'm just leaving that one quite sharp there because that contrasts quite strongly with the background. Now I need a darker side here. Again, I'm leaving all the highlights off these at the moment. We have a really dark area in between here now. Okay, I just realised the battery in the overhead camera had died, so I've just changed that. I don't know whereabouts it died, but basically what I've done is mixed up a local colour for one of the cherries, which is this red, and that was a mixture of crimson alizarin and transparent oxide red, and then I've created a darker version of that, mixing in some black, and I've ended up with this reddy purple, quite a dark reddy purpley colour, which will be the shadow side of a lot of these cherries. And I'll paint this in, and then later on I will darken the areas that I need to enlighten the areas. I'm not putting any highlights in just yet. I'm going to hang fire until as late as possible. If I can just get the colours in correctly, then I can go after, do the shadow, the highlights after that. Okay, so right, now there's this bunch of dark cherries here. Just get some of the darks in. They lean towards more purple. This one comes around here. As I said earlier, there's quite a lot in the previous video. There's quite a lot of ambiguity around here, and it makes it difficult to pick out individual cherries and things like that. And I've got to try, where possible, to retain that. Now, because these colours are very dark, I am getting an awful lot of shine reflection. I'm having to move my head around. Sorry, I'm sort of breathing down the neck of the camera at the moment. So there's a colour that comes there. I'll soften all this again in a moment. Okay. I've got that one, there's a big one here. Some of the cherries, the brighter red ones, the saturation in them is really strong. They're really bright red, but I'm sort of saving that at the moment. I'm more concerned with trying to get some sort of form. I was finding this difficult the other day, and I still am. actually. It's because they generally, I want the highlights in these to be really, really. Okay, sorry about that. Camera battery died again. Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, some of the colours are really vivid. There's one or two splashes of really strong, high chroma colour. But I'm kind of saving that because I'm very aware that the vast majority of these cherries are very dark, and it's the darkness that's going to allow me to create strong highlights. When I come to paint the highlights on, I want those highlights to really be bright, and the only way I can do that is by making sure that I've got plenty of darks in there. So now you can see here these cherries that sit at the back. What I'm doing is just making sure that they are actually darker than the background, which they are, which is good. Maybe a slightly lighter version there. I need to actually mix up more of a violet. As I said previously, some of these cherries are darker and tend to lean more towards violet. To mix a bit of that in. Okay, that's not bad. That's better, yeah. There's a few of them that have this kind of purpley red on the highlight side. And you definitely do here. The cherry at the backs is really bright actually. So I'm going to have to mix a brighter red for that, and there's a little bit where the stalk comes, and there's another bright cherry back behind there. Now your view with the photograph is going to be very different to mine, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not trying to replicate the photograph. I'm going more from where I'm sat and what I can see. Obviously the colours come down into here. That's it. And this bright cherry back here has got a real splash of red there. Same with this one. one or two and kind of just picking them out. I'm going to start thinking a bit about the highlights now. This pinky violet mix. So this is just helping with the form as much as anything else. I don't get too light over this side because they are in quite a bit of shadow. Okay, I just start to blend some of that together, I think. And still don't want any sharp edges really. I mean, I have started to define them a little bit more, but I'm still a little bit uncertain as to where I'm going to, as to how these are going to develop. So I'm trying not to commit to making any marks that I'm going to be stuck with. Well, you're never really stuck with anything, you can always change it, but still quite ambiguous, beginning to take a bit more shape. And I'm adjusting the drawing as I'm going along with this still as well. I think what I'm going to do is now start to home in on individual pieces. I'll start with this one here, I think. Individual cherries, and start to get them far more accurate. So it's quite light on this side. There's a highlight that runs down here, but the highlight kind of fades into a pinky colour, so I'll put the pink in, and then later I can come back and add the white over the top. It curves over at the top there, and then the stalk is actually here, and the stalk's really green against this dark bit, so I want to keep that. Need a better brush. This one's a bit clunky. Better brush, I should say a finer brush really. I'll have the glasses to go on. Oh, that spoiled things. Really highly saturated, that's pure crimson alizarin there, and that's the strongest patch of colour on this cherry, and it sort of fades away. It's much lighter than that, I'm sure. I want to raise the value without making it pink. Too pink anyway, too high value pink I should say. And the reason I want to raise the value is because there's a real contrast between this left hand side of this cherry and the shadow next to it. And I'm not quite there yet, I know I aren't, I can tell. Might end up wiping that little bit off that I've just put on. That's better. And we kind of go towards a grey colour. So this, the value at the top of this cherry is still quite high value, but the chrome has dropped, the intensity of the colour. So we've got the high value here, and it goes into, continues to go out, it's the same sort of value, just all less intense. So I'm just mixing a bit of white in that, and I've got a sort of a grey from one of these other colours that I mixed in. We have the highlight down here. Yeah, look at that, how's that looking? Still not convinced. be honest, I'm sorry I'm not doing much talking at the moment, but in all honesty there isn't much to say. You can sort of see what I'm doing. Just adjusting colours, starting to put highlights in. Not necessarily the real high highlights, the light side of the cherries I should say, not highlights. Now these cherries are the ones that I'm working on at the moment. They're a slightly different colour. They're dark, really dark, almost black. So the light side, I mean, you can see on here I added pink to make the lights, to create the form. On this side it's more of a violet. There's some subtlety down in this one here, it needs to be changed. And I'm comparing this sort of grey that I'm putting on at the top is lighter than the background, and from what I can see that's how it is. There's a couple of them that have this on. Again, I'm trying to be fairly non-committal. I'm just gently trying to nudge it in a direction that it starts to actually look something like. Right, okay, so I've gone and added some lights. I think what I'm going to do now is go and work on the darks again and just keep on sort of going backwards and forwards between the two to try and, well, two things. Firstly, the drawing is being corrected all the time, and secondly I'm trying to create that form. Now this cherry, there's the light from the background, the grey from the background kind of cuts around here, so I've got to change that. That's like shape it, because there's actually a stalk or something that comes around like that. Okay, go back to them darks. Oops. Be careful you don't get your paint muddy. Very dark in there. Very dark under here. And the dark is setting up this edge on this other cherry. A lot of the time you'll be painting shadowing of one object, and that'll be setting up the edge for the other object that you're painting. This whole cherry is really dark. This one up here is really dark against the background. I find this part of the painting, just getting the form, correcting the drawing, is really time consuming. I think that one goes a bit higher, that's up there. And I just can't leave it, I have to keep going until I'm happy with it. And what's happening there is there's a bit of turpentine on something on the surface that's just, I can't get the paint on, so I'm going to have to leave that to dry. See, there's a patch there. I'm going to have to leave that for a bit, come back to it later. Just trying to get these really high chroma bits in now. I feel a little bit distracted today. Somebody asked me a while ago if being an artist, there was somebody who doesn't paint, had said they couldn't understand how I could come in and paint every day, because they were always under the impression that if you were an artist you had to have I don't know, sort of some sort of inspiration to want to go out and paint, which is true, I guess you do. But usually I come in here and just kind of get on with it, but I feel really distracted today, and I wonder if there's something in that it's just the certain days you just can't paint. I don't feel like I'm making a very good job of it, and I'm not particularly happy with it, and I feel I'm creating this video, so I've kind of that I feel like that's an added pressure. So I'm sort of forcing myself. I'm not particularly happy with the way the painting's going, but I'm forcing myself to keep on plugging away at it. And I think if the camera wasn't on, I probably wouldn't worry anywhere nearly as much. I'd just leave it for a while. I mean, with a painting, it's always going to get there. You just don't stop until you're happy with it. But I'm struggling with this at the moment, and I don't like the fact that I'm struggling and I've got the camera on, and I feel like I should be saying something that's constructive, or I've got a reason for the way it's going. I know that the drawing wasn't particularly accurate, which hasn't helped. The drawing of the cherries wasn't accurate anyway. That really hasn't helped me. I don't know. Strange. I'm almost wondering whether to just leave the cherries for a bit now. In fact, I might just leave the whole thing for a bit. I'm wondering, is it worthwhile keeping going with the camera on? But then I guess that's what I said I'd set out to do at the start. I would do this painting and just be completely open about the bits that I was struggling with. Then again, is it useful for people to sit through that while I'm struggling with this painting? Is that benefiting anybody? You're probably all sitting there screaming at the TV saying, "No, do this. You should. I can see what you're doing wrong." If you can see what I'm doing wrong, put it in the comments. I know when I put the highlights on these cherries, then they're suddenly going to come alive. But I'm just not happy with I'm not happy with the colours. I'm not happy with the drawing. And the drawing's probably the most important bit. I mean, for example, I'm just looking now. I can see that this cherry here is the highest out of all the cherries. That one should be a little bit lower. or that should be higher. This one here should be definitely almost the same height as that. A bit further forward, a little bit bigger. Maybe I need to be just more critical with what I'm doing. So let's see if I can correct this. This cherry here is one of the biggest ones, and it's sitting really proud in the foreground, and I've not done it big enough. That's better. It's something more like that. This one should have been lower down, but I've painted the background now, so I'm going to have to leave it where it is, which is a bit annoying, because I don't want to redo the background. That's kind of a sort of an oval sort of cherry. It does overlap this other one here. This one sits a little bit higher. This one sits, and let me get that light value, much higher actually, sits something like that. Okay, now there's one here that's hidden, half a cherry there. Actually there's a gap then to this one, so I need to put that gap in. So this shadow comes down here and there's a gap there to this next cherry. Okay. This one is quite dark. It's actually further over that way. No, I think these are further down. So let me see if I can sort that out. So we've got some of the bowl, so the bowl comes down here. I'm not painting the bowl yet, I'm just trying to shape the cherries, and then it comes round. There's a cherry there that kind of sits behind the bowl. And then this one here, all I'm doing is I'm just putting a light value in just so that I can see where they are. Something like that. The ball comes down behind it. And there's actually a little tiny bit down here where you can see through. Something like that. Okay. This one. So I've got that big cherry. This one's maybe here. That's better. That's there. So that's there. And then behind it, there's a purpley one. Let me get my purple. Quite dark. That sits here. Be directly behind it. Essentially all I'm doing now is redrawing. If you've ever read Richard Smith's book Alla Prima, he talks about what to do when things go wrong, and you've got to narrow it down. The way he describes it, you start at the top and you bring your hand down, and then suddenly you'll spot where the bit where things are going wrong, and it's either drawing. A lot of the time it is drawing, colour or value or colour. That shadow there is much lower down. and it goes, that cherry that's sat there is quite small. So it's a case of just identifying which of those things is wrong. And in mine it's the drawing of these cherries, they're just not sat right. It's beginning to get there now, I think. I've said that before, but feeling a bit happy with that. This shadow here goes there like that, that's better. This cherry has a shadow there. There's obviously the stalks and things like that that are crossing these, that's better there now. And with this, as I said before, it's quite ambiguous. So let's see if I can soften that a little bit. Okay. So maybe, as I was saying 5 minutes ago, is it worth you guys watching this? But maybe it is. Maybe this is exactly the kind of thing that you need to see. And this isn't like a one-off. Everybody who paints will have moments where things just don't work. Now this one needs to be higher. I'm just going to mark it very. That's almost there. And it goes across to the centre and then it starts to come down here. Something like that there. The one down that's in here has got a little bit of highlight on it there. Yeah, we're beginning to get something like, I think you just have to sort of grab the bull by the horns and say, right, it's not working. Why isn't it working? And be very critical. I'm not going to worry at the moment about the values and things. I just want to get the cherries in the right place. That's looking okay. That curves a little bit more. And it's got a reflected light at the side here, as has this one down here. In fact, most of them have. This one has. This one has. I think they're more positioned better now. Okay. So soften them a little bit. Yeah, so I think you have to be honest with yourself and say, right, things just aren't working. You've got two choices. You can persevere and try and identify what's going wrong and correct it, or you can just wipe it off and start again. And at this point for me now, there's no point doing that. Obviously, I'm sort of committed, and I think it's just a simple drawing errors that I just need to correct. And actually, I feel a little bit better by the fact that I've just started to do that, rather than just keep plugging away in the hope that it just all falls into place. Okay, I'm going to go in with a finer brush now and start to shape these a little bit more, I think. I may have to come back to this drawing and correcting the drawing again, but I feel like I need to get some solidity to this. So let's find a brush. Now where do I start? Let's start with these two cherries here. Really dark. I've got crimson, alizarin and black. May not there. And I'm going to create the top edge of this cherry. That curves over. Making a mess of this already. Now the paint's much thicker now, you can probably tell that actually. Let me get a different brush. I don't want to go to the super fine brush yet, but something that I can do a line with reasonably accurately. I'm shaping the edges of these cherries now, so that's better. Okay, and then now because I've put loads of paint on here today, this might be a job for tomorrow. Because what's happening is the paint's mixing in with the layers below. Okay, and then this one. Again, very black. I've got tons and tons of shine off the brush strokes off the lights. And it's really dark up here. I am going to soften these in a moment with do a bit of blending on them. Just want to make sure that everything's in the right place first. I'm going back to when things start going wrong. I've just been working on the drawing to try and correct it. The corrections, it might not be instant results once you've made that decision to correct things, and even once you've identified what's going wrong, you might not get instant results. I'm correcting the drawing and I'm chipping away at it, but I'm still not happy with things. But the very fact that if I identify it and you start to make those corrections, and as long as you keep working on it, you will get there in the end. mean, when you've got something very complex like this, it's not going to happen. I'm really just drawing at the moment with the brush. That's the great thing with oil paint though. You can work on it for as long as you like, and some paintings will fall into place quickly, others you might spend days working on until you get to a place where you're happy with it. When I set out to do this video, I didn't intend it to take days. Maybe, as I've said before, maybe I should have started with something simpler. But the purpose of this video is more about the process. May move this light. Is that any better? It's got so much glare on the canvas, it's hard to see anything. to move on to the highlights. The thing is with these cherries, we do want to squint and look at them. We have one mass of just purples and reds, and the definition isn't between them isn't really easy to identify. And what I don't want is a painting of lots of purple and red little balls. I want ambiguity in it. think I'm tempted to sort of leave these now. Let it dry, go tacky for a day, and then keep working on it. It's going to take me a while to do this. Still not happy with them, and probably won't be for quite a while. What time is it now? things are starting to, I'm taking a bit more care now. I've just been thinking to myself about the value of this. I mean, if the one thing that, what I'm going to do is I'll just keep chipping away at this. I'll put some music on when I make the video, so it's not so tedious just watching me paint. But I have been struggling with this, and I think it's really important that that comes across in the video. And I don't, I'll be honest with you, I was finding I was struggling with it, and I didn't know exactly what the answer was, so I was kind of flailing around a little bit, trying to bring the painting on to improve it, and I wasn't sure exactly what the problem was. It was a combination of everything really, values, drawing particularly I think, values, rushing, putting myself under pressure to get this video looking slick, and as a result probably not concentrating as much as I normally would. And when I paint I don't talk when I'm painting. Sometimes I'll have background music on, but not all the time. I tend to prefer the quiet, and I really do concentrate on what I'm doing. And putting this video together, I've been aware that I'm trying to sort of, as I said I would do, narrate the thought processes that I'm going through, and maybe I felt some sort of pressure that I'd got to make everything look slick, look as though there were never any times when I was struggling. But to be honest with you, there are. A lot of the time when I'm painting, it's a bit of a struggle. Painting isn't easy. It really isn't. And then I realised obviously that might be a valuable thing for you to see. But of course, finding my way out of that mess, when I don't know what the answer is, isn't straightforward. So I'm just I was trying to correct the drawing, trying to correct the colours, the values, all of that sort of thing. And there was no point sort of narrating over the top, because there was nothing constructive that I could say. I think now it's actually beginning to get something like, it needs a lot more work, but I'll just keep chipping away at it. I'll have music on when I put this video together, so that you can, it's not as tedious watching it. I won't give up on this. I'll never give up on it, because I think it's going to be a nice painting if I can sort this problem out. I think now these cherries just need to be left to, this needs to be left to tack up a little bit so I can work on it some more. What's happening now is it's difficult to actually get strong value, contrasts and colour, because every brush stroke that I put on merges with the previous one that was on there. Okay, so I'm just blending in those areas that it's just to keep it soft. I don't want any harsh edges yet. And this is going to give me a much better basis to then work on. I'm a little bit happier with that. I've still got to put the white highlights on. I keep saying this, and that will make it, it will pull everything together. But that will not happen until I'm happy with everything else. I think the colours are a little bit better, the drawing's a bit better, the value's a bit better, but we're still not there. So I'm going to have to come back to this. I'm going to have to work over it again and again, probably a couple of times. Okay, so my apologies if this isn't what you expected from this video. I can't just say to create a nice painting you do this, this, this and this. You will encounter problems. When you encounter the problems, you have to grab the bull by the horns and sort of say to yourself, right, this isn't working. What can I do to correct that? Do something. There's no point doing the same thing that you've been doing. you won't solve the problem that way. You've got to do something different. So address, is it the drawing that's out? Is it the value? Is it the chroma? Is it the contrast between one thing and something else? And once you've identified it, then work on correcting it. So mine was the drawing. I've worked on that. I still need to do more. Even looking now, I can see bits and pieces that need correcting. So I'm going to carry on for a little while longer. I'm going to put some music on, and hopefully that will make it less painful for you to watch. And then I'll leave it and come back to it again tomorrow to sort of refine it even further. But I'm feeling a little bit happier with it now.